He was just 28 years old, Joe Taylor, whose name has been changed to protect the innocent. The young, trusting, wannabe entrepreneur had visions of sugar plums dancing in his head. He had recently attended one of those get-rich-quick seminars for real estate at a large Seattle hotel that he had seen advertised on late-night TV. And in the end, I'm going to reveal exactly who Joe is, and I guarantee Joe is someone you've heard of before. And meanwhile, if you could please click the like button below so YouTube promotes this video, I'd really appreciate it. And while you're down there, please click the subscribe button if you haven't already, so that when more videos come out like this one, you'll be up to date right away. Joe had taken his knowledge, what little he possessed, and drove to the coast with his pregnant wife to meet the seller of a dilapidated 6-unit apartment buildings in the slums of Tacoma, Washington. He cleverly negotiated the deal of $3,000 down and monthly payments of $493 a month to the seller. Now, over the next couple of years managing the property, he learned how to evict prostitutes, drug dealers, gang members, and oh yes, collect rents. He picked bullets out of walls with a pocket knife on more than one occasion after some all too familiar drive-by shootings. Rooked by a con man, Joe decided to fix up the property, so he took the little money he had made from renting the property and tapped his meager savings account to make improvements to the building. A former church member introduced him to a contractor at a friend's housewarming party, and the contractor, who had recently joined the congregation, was in his mid-40s, new to town, handsome, well-groomed, and smooth-talking. Now, the contractor said he desperately needed the money to pay some back taxes. Moreover, he would do the work for cheap if Joe paid him $8,000 up front. In exchange, he would paint the building inside and out, replace the cabinets, put in new floors in all 6 units, and Joe obliged, thinking he was both helping a fellow parishioner and getting a bargain. The trusting soul. The inevitable happened. The contractor spent the money on his taxes and had none left over to finish the job. So the builder approached a factor financing company, a real break-your-knees joint on the Seattle waterfront, to obtain a short-term loan. The work ensued, and 30 days later, the contractor had a problem. The factor financing loan came due, and shortly thereafter, the contractor asked Joe if he could borrow the money to pay him off. In turn, the contractor would get another loan from the factor financing company to repay Joe. Joe complied and paid the contractor's lender directly. The contractor got a second loan. The contractor repaid Joe, and the fix-up work continued. Subsequently, the same scenario occurred 2 more times, with Joe getting paid and the contractor continuing the job. The heartbreaker. Then the world collapsed. Joe got a call from the lender that said the $70,000 loan was due. What $70,000 loan? The contractor had been forging Joe's signature on the factor financing loan documents. Joe had been set up. The contractor had Joe repay the loans directly to the lender to make it appear that Joe and the contractor were in cahoots. The day the big burly guy pulled up in front of Joe's house with the lawsuit papers was the day that Joe and his wife brought home the couple's second child from the hospital, a newborn son. The lawsuit battle. A 4-year, knockdown, drag-out legal battle ensued. The legal bills were devastating. It was like a vacuum cleaner sucking dollars out of his bank account. Those were 4 long years where Joe would lie on his back at night staring at the ceiling in a pool of sweat, worrying about how he would provide for his family. Would the family of 4 be kicked out into the streets, homeless, begging for pennies? And then he would look to his left, and there was his wife, lying in bed in a pool of sweat staring at the ceiling. Research revealed that the contractor, a former drug dealer, had for years run a chain of cons from Hawaii to Texas to Florida, leaving a string of victims in his wake. The wake-up call. The young couple's friends couldn't understand. You guys are victims. Can't you just tell the courts this? Can't you just tell them that? If you've never been in a lawsuit, it's difficult to understand. The reasoning of an ordinary human being and the rationale of the courts are 2 different animals. It's like a pit bull has you by the throat and it only lets go when it decides to let go. Then you have to convince a jury of 12 strangers that you're innocent of any wrongdoing while your opponent is bent on making you look like the devil incarnate. The ordeal wiped Joe out financially. Lawsuits take lawyers, and Joe had no money left to pay them. The lender seized Joe's small apartment building, plus the legal bills had left his bank accounts dry. Therefore, he and his wife filed a no-asset bankruptcy. Thus, it left them penniless. What's more, the contractor ended up in prison for 9 months, all learned painful lessons. Now, like I said, keep watching because I'm going to tell you exactly who Joe is, and it's somebody you know or at least have heard of before. I guarantee it. Now, here's how how judgments work. Switching gears here, let's put you in the driver's seat. Say you're driving your car on Friday night going out to dinner, you blow a red light, and a motorcycle broadsides you, paralyzes the guy. The good news is that you have $500,000 of insurance, but the bad news is you only have $500,000 of insurance and you get a $3.5 million judgment against you. You think, okay, this is very bad. And by the way, this just happened to a client of ours in California, just called us. So let's say you have, like a friend of mine, a $2 million house in Florida, a $1 million house in New Jersey, and you go back and forth as a snowbird. You have a $500,000 farm in Ohio, a $500,000 house in California as a rental, $500,000 property in Texas, and a $500,000 house as a rental property in New York. Grand total, $5 million. So you have a $3.5 million judgment against you. $500,000 of that is paid by the insurance company. Now you owe $3 million. And you say, okay, I have $5 million in property. I'm going to lose $3 million of them. I'll still have $2 million. I'm still not looking that bad. And you say, okay, well, I live in Florida. I'm going to call this my primary residence and I have homestead protection. But the judge says, I'm sorry, we're not going to consider this your primary residence. We're going to consider your New Jersey property your primary residence, because that's what opposing lawyers do. They try to get as much out of you as possible. And when it's your attorney against your opponent's attorney, sometimes your opponent's attorney is going to win. Now, New Jersey, by the way, has zero homestead protection, so you can lose the entire $1 million. That means they get to take your $2 million Florida home as well. So you say, okay, I'm losing these two properties here. That's the $3 million. That covers the $3 million judgment. I'm looking okay. I still have $2 million left. But let me ask you a question. If this is your property, how much can you sell this $2 million property for? It's your property. How much can you sell it for? You can sell it for whatever you want. You can sell it for $1. You can sell it for $1 million. You're in the driver's seat because this is your property. But when somebody has a judgment against you, they now get to step in your shoes and do whatever you could do. So they step into your shoes and seize property number 1 in New Jersey, but they sell it for $750,000 because they have the right to do it. And once they sell that property, they say, okay, now write a check to us for $2,250,000. And you say, oh, I don't have the money. Okay, we'll help you then. Then they take this next property. They get $2 million for it, or they can sell it for whatever they want. Let's say they sell that $2 million for $1.2 million in a fire sale. They need to sell it quickly. Let's say it's during a recession when houses aren't selling very quickly. So now that's $1.2 million more of your judgment paid off. Now they say, okay, write me a check for $750,000. You say, I don't have the money. Okay, we'll help you then. They take the farm. They sell that for $300,000. Okay? They take this property here. They sell this off for $300,000 as well in a fire sale. They take this property, sell it for $300,000. They're in charge. They get to sell it for whatever they want to sell it for. And they sell this one for $300,000. And they say, okay, we'll be real nice to you. We got $150,000 left over and we'll give that to you. So your $5 million portfolio has now been whittled down to $150,000 because somebody else is in the driver's seat. That's why it is so essential to protect your assets from losses. Now back to our story. You're not alone. Joe and his family are not alone. The United States has just 5% of the world's population, 80% of the world's lawyers, and 96% of the world's lawsuits. Legal experts agree that there are literally millions of lawsuits people filed in the U.S. every year that those same people would not pursue overseas. And many of these lawsuits are filed by lawyers who must litigate to survive. In fact, a survey conducted by Harris Interactive revealed the following. 76% of the people surveyed feel that fear of frivolous lawsuits discourages people from performing normal activities. Only 16% of the people trust the legal system to defend them against frivolous lawsuits. 54% don't trust the legal system at all. 94% agree that there is a rising tendency for people to threaten legal action. 83% feel that the legal system makes it far too easy to file bogus claims. 56% believe that fundamental changes are needed to improve the civil justice system. The most revealing result was that 87% of Americans surveyed agreed that the justice system is used by many as a lottery by filing lawsuits and seeing how much they can win. Joe went on to become the CEO of the largest asset protection firm in the United States, with some of the top asset protection attorneys and consultants on staff to protect people's assets from the dangers of lawsuits. Oh, by the way, who is Joe? Joe is me. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. This is The Business Guy.